Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3, in particular, discussing the game because I just beat it a couple days ago. Do note that this is going to be me going into spoilers, but to kind of start things off with a little bit of non-spoiler stuff. How do I feel about the game in general? I really like it. I think it is a great addition to the Kingdom Hearts franchise. As someone who really likes the Kingdom Hearts franchise, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on, but to kind of give you a little background if you don't know, because I've talked about this recently in a video I did a little while ago about Kingdom Hearts. I've only played 1 and 2. I know the grand story of Kingdom Hearts. There's some stuff here and there with the whole key situation, Kingdom Hearts key, but nevertheless, like I said, I'll discuss that later. But in general, I know the story of Kingdom Hearts just because I never had the systems that the other things were on, so I never had an opportunity to play them myself, but I did watch other people play it, so that way I always absorbed the story, and that's one of the things I love about Kingdom Hearts. It's not just them as games, but also just them narratively, and storyline wise. So, but in general, from top to bottom, gameplay wise and story-wise, I really liked it. It took a lot of interesting turns that I kind of didn't expect, so I'll kind of dive more into it. But this isn't like some grand review of should you buy it. I think if you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan, you should. Obviously, if you don't know the story of Kingdom Hearts, don't just jump into 3 and try to fill in the blanks. I mean, the game does a good job of literally, I didn't look into it, but because I don't really need it, but it's it's there to be oh yeah, here's a rundown of the story so far. You can check it out in your gummy phone, and I love that's a whole thing. But like I said, I'll talk about that soon enough. But in general, yeah, those are my thoughts about it. Going forward, I will be going into spoilers, so do keep that in mind if you're sticking around. So holy crap, a lot of interesting things about this game. Like I said, I don't know where to really start. Obviously, gameplay wise, it's phenomenal. I love what they did. They basically took this series and they've just built upon it into Kingdom Hearts 3, including the flow motion stuff from Dream Drop Distance, building a lot of stuff. A lot of the combat flows and feels exactly like it did in 2, but they just added more layers to it, whether it be the God, what are they called? The things that you summon up, the carousel, little car thing that you summon up that you shoot with, and even the train. Those actual links, which I guess that's supposed to be a cross between the little links you can do in Birth by Sleep combined with summons. I guess that's kind of how you kind of look at that. I love how they kind of shifted it up, because obviously they're building off a little bit of the drive forms, but it's more so, with your clothes change the drive forms, but it's more so, rather than giving you multiple keyblades and some of the drive forms from 2, it's your weapons will shift. And I also love that being a feature, that the fact is that you switch between, you can have 3 keyblades equipped at any time. Me being me, if you don't know me when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, even this, I always kept the Kingdom Key on because I'm that weirdo. I think my final time, it's oh, which keyblades you use the most? I think it said for me, it was Kingdom Key 41 plus hours or something like that. I'm that dude. I've talked about it before. That's just my weird little quirk. I've always got to have the Kingdom Key on, but it doesn't mean I didn't experiment with the other keyblades and stuff like that. Nevertheless, like I said, a lot of the flow motion stuff, him being able to run up a lot of surfaces, I love that. The verticality of this game is insane, especially when you get to places that it really shines through, San Fran, Tokyo, the Big Hero 6 world. I think that's one place it shines heavily. Also, I love what they did with the Caribbean, because I remember seeing this in the previews. Do know, I tried to avoid looking at too many of the trailers and stuff like that, but holy crap, the Caribbean, where you actually get to play on the water, not just play in the water, you actually get to run around on the ship. You get the Leviathan. There's a whole thing too, because I went back to the Caribbean after I completed it. I don't know whether it's because I maxed out the Leviathan ship's level with the white crab situation. I don't know if it's because of that, or is it just the moment you finish the world and come back, you can switch to the black pearl. I'm not sure on that. It might be because I maxed it out, but like I said, I'd maxed it out before I finished the world and then came back, so I don't know. But underwater battling is crazy. It's just the stuff that Sora has been able to do, especially Kingdom Hearts 2, it's just mind-boggling, just the crazy stuff that he does. I love how I don't know what, it's a weird thing in my head for some reason, and I feel there's always these little situations of oh yeah, the worlds of the world of Kingdom Hearts, essentially the Heartless and all of that, invading other worlds and stuff like that. So it implements it affects these Disney worlds like that, sure, but I feel for whatever reason, I feel it's wrong to say this, but I feel more so in this game, the Kingdom Hearts storyline heavily hits every world. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm thinking of the other previous games in a certain light, because some worlds had more to do with the overarching story than others did. You know, I mean, it was all, a lot of the worlds were still about Sora and Donald and Goofy's growth, but more so Sora's. But the fact of the matter is, so it was always, but it's like, I feel like in this game, like, there was always like some Kingdom Hearts, like, storyline stuff to it to a certain degree, like, you know, whether it be like the organization running around kicking it or Maleficent and Pete popping up. Now that kind of took me by surprise. The fact is, they're not in the game that often. They're just popping up every once in a while. I'm pretty sure, I could be remembering this wrong, but Sora literally only runs into them one time, right? And they're kind of all doing their own thing. Even the ending kind of suggests like, oh yeah, we're doing our thing and don't count us out. But it's like they didn't even really get in your way this game. They're kind of doing their own thing, which I thought was kind of interesting. What else? You know, since I am talking about the Disney worlds and stuff like that, the fact of the matter is, which one was probably my favorite? I don't know. I really liked all of them. I like what they did with Olympus Coliseum. Well, they made it just Olympus, but now that was trippy because it's like, it's not a Coliseum. It's just, you know, Olympus itself. So they did make it more of a world and everything, but it's trippy to me to think like, I mean, because I was like, oh, so are they going to make this the Coliseum in this game? It's like, it's technically speaking, it's not the first game to not have the Coliseum because Birth by Sleep did, and that's what the whole Mirage Arena existed for that. But still, it's just kind of crazy to me to think like, holy crap, like it's not. I mean, I guess that's what the whole battle gates are for, because I've done most of them. I haven't done all of them at this point in time, but I guess that's what they're supposed to be, that kind of replacement. But still, I would have been like, oh man, it's actually kind of interesting because this is the first game when you never face Hades, you know, for that world, because obviously you fight the Titans and that's it. Kind of Hades kind of gets dealt with on its own. It's kind of like the whole Maleficent and Pete situation of like that never being dealt with. I just thought that was just kind of interesting. I mean, he gets dealt with, but not by you. It's more of a Hercules and Zeus kind of send him packing type. But I mean, like I said, still like even in that regard, like I still liked a lot of the worlds. Like I said, I brought it up before, like the whole how they implemented a lot of the storylines, you know, with the Kingdom Hearts stuff and, you know, with those worlds, because in some worlds you take like Big Hero, you know, San Fran, Tokyo, and Monstropolis, and your Monster Inc. Those are sequels, and I thought that was so interesting because, like, I mean, to be fair, because I could, like, it's been a long time since I saw Monster Inc. So for me, it's kind of interesting, kind of coming into it because I forgot a lot of the story of one of Monster Inc. So, but it's kind of seeing it be as a sequel, and even Big Hero 6 kind of being a sequel, like, and it makes sense in Big Hero 6's case, you know, San Fran, Tokyo, because it's like that way, like they've already been set up and stuff like that, but because that way they don't take too much of, like, I guess, repeating the story, because obviously, I mean, that's kind of what Kingdom Hearts does. It kind of takes the story from the movie and just kind of remixes it with Kingdom Hearts elements to it. So, and you know, I'm sitting here thinking about it. I didn't even talk about that opening. I think it's hard to say. I think it might be my favorite opening. Like, song wise, I think it is. I don't know, because, you know, Simple and Clean and Sanctuary are so damn good. Plus, it's tied with like the openings they both create, especially Sanctuary really grew on me. But I just like this song, Face My Fears. It's just like, dude, it's Utada and Skrillex. Didn't see that combination coming, but it's so dope. It's like, I can't help but like it, especially when the drop hits. It's like, it's so good. And the way it's matched up and synced with the opening, it's so good. So like, if I had to pick an opening, like just cinematic wise, it's a tie for me between Dream Draw Distance and this. But like song wise, I think this is up there for me. It might be number one. Like, it is the one I have actively listened to over and over again recently, just because it's so good. So just kind of want to throw that out there as well. You know, it's kind of interesting because I feel like amongst all the worlds, again, getting back to the conversation, the one where I feel like that didn't have the biggest Kingdom Hearts thing to it was Frozen. I mean, Arendelle, because I feel like a lot of that story kind of went on without Sora. So that was just kind of an interesting thing because it was like, I feel like out of anything, that was the one world where I felt like, oh, like you were more so a viewer than participated. You participated, but not to the extent I feel like you did in every other world. So I wonder, was there a particular reason why they didn't really tackle that? I mean, it's kind of interesting because like I haven't seen it yet, but I know a teaser trailer for Frozen 2 just dropped. So I'm wondering if there's any reasoning, like because of that and everything, they try not to do too much with it. Like maybe they are able to take a little bit more licenses with the other ones just because, I don't know, you know, I'm probably overthinking it and stuff like that, but still, it was just something I couldn't help but really notice. And speaking of that, it's interesting because this has more like obviously this game has beautiful graphics. It's crazy. It still trips me out to be like, man, this game looks like this. Especially because they do that interesting thing at the beginning where it's like you look like Sora from Kingdom Hearts 1. Even the little Sora U health bar looks like Sora from KH1 until he switches over to KH2, and then like the icon at the bottom like reflects like the graphics of the game and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of a neat little aspect. If you are curious, like, oh, how did you build your character? I went, balanced as well as warrior. Why? Because even in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, like, even though I haven't played the other Kingdom Hearts, like, would have always, like, well, because that's the only ones you can do that in now that I'm thinking about 1 and 2, because none of the other Kingdom Hearts are set up like that now I'm thinking about that. So ignore what I just said. But the fact is, because like, Donald's already the mage, and then Goofy's already the guardian, with the shield and everything, being a knight and everything. So it was like, Sora's naturally the warrior, and that's just always my preference of playstyle. It's also, I think this is the first game I've actively used magic a lot. I think I used magic in 2 a lot too. It's just like 1, I never really, the only thing I used actively in 1 was arrow, because that's such a good spell. Like, it buffs your defense and, makes it so that, you take less damage from hits, but also when you're close to an enemy, they're also taking like damage from the spell as you're attacking them. So it works in that interesting regard. It's actually interesting that they ended up bringing, because I think they brought Arrow back for Birth by Sleep, but it didn't work the same way. And in this one, it still doesn't work the same way as 1, because I guess maybe they found out like, oh, that's a little busted as a spell, so now it's more of like it swirls enemies up, kind of gathers enemies up, boosts you in the air so that you can like strike down and stuff like that. It's actually interesting because I thought about this, like, let me know if I missed something, but this is also the first one that doesn't have any like time magic. Like, it's used cutscene wise, but it's not actually in the actual game itself. Like, there's no gravity spell, there's no stop, which is just kind of interesting to me. I wonder, like I said, not unless I'm missing something, but nevertheless. I literally went on a huge tangent, so I do apologize. But also, what I was saying before was kind of like more CGI animated cutscenes and stuff like that, because that's never like, there's usually 2 in every Kingdom Hearts game. There's 1 at the beginning and there's 1 at the end. That's usually it. But there was like a lot more sprinkled throughout the game, and then the transition into them was so good, and it just looks so pretty. The game already looks so pretty, but then you add in that and it looks so good. I mean, they did such a stellar job. And to me, I think in the long run, a lot of people had the thought of like, well, was it worth the wait? Because like, this game is, because there's been so many games in between building up the story to Kingdom Hearts 3, There's so many, what you could, I guess, consider spin-offs, when in actuality they're not spin-offs because they're part of the story. But the fact of the matter is, I think a lot of stuff in this game couldn't have been done if they hadn't waited. Like, it could have, but it just wouldn't be, this game wouldn't be as amazing and as polished as it is. Like, I think the technology for the graphics probably wouldn't have been there. They probably wouldn't have been able to do a lot of stuff that they did. Because this was also like the first Kingdom Hearts to have worlds with NPCs. Like, you can't talk to all of them, and it's okay. Like, you run by them, there's some dialogues that, play on a loop and stuff like that. But it's like, there are NPCs running around. That is insane, because that's never been really a thing in Kingdom Hearts. I mean, a little bit here and there, like, but you'll see it maybe 1 world at most. There's like the more main character. Obviously, there's the more main character NPCs that kind of run around and stuff like that, or rather stick around. But that's just one thing. But nevertheless, I thought that was just kind of a neat little thing. But this is me just talking about the gameplay and stuff like that, which is important and stuff like that. But also narrative storyline wise, I really like it. I like the bonds between Donald, Sora, and Goofy, and just, that's always been a strong, like, that trio has always been so strong, and I feel like they kind of let themselves loose a little bit more in this. The fact is that they, Monstropolis, which I love that world. I also love the design of their characters. I love that they scare themselves, but it's like, you went to Halloween Town, but I guess you weren't as scary, which is also interesting because Donald was like a talking snowman. How is that? It's like, but in the final mix version only, Halloween Town, when you go to Christmas Town, you get new outfits, and it's like Donald was a snowman, but I guess for him it's like, oh, that's magic. So an actual snowman, I'm a duck that turned into a snowman. That's different from just an outright snowman talking, the whole Olaf situation. But nevertheless, with Monstropolis, they ended up kind of scaring each other, and Goofy being like, I think you're both scary. And they're like, really? You got room to talk? You look just as scary as. He's like, really? I didn't think. So, and I feel like they kind of like legitimately kind of poke fun at each other even more, especially because Donald and Goofy basically talk shit about Sora, and I thought that was such a little like back and forth in the whole like, pint and a half situation, and it's like, oh, 3 pints, we make a hole and stuff like that. But their bond, I really love. I do like that you kind of bounce around a little bit to the others, like Riku and Mickey and Kairi and Axel. It's interesting that he decided like, oh, rather than don't call me Lee, just call me Axel. I guess it's because like he didn't really have a lot tying him to his past as Lee, but you know, so much happened to him, so much good stuff, you know, happened to him as Axel. Even though he doesn't remember it, there's Shion, but then there's Roxas, there's Kairi, there's Sora, all of this, like becoming a Keyblade wielder and stuff like that, you know? Which I never really noticed. I like that kind of seeing him use it now, like in the episode. It's so weird because it's like, obviously he uses it kind of like his original weapons, but it's got like a blade to it, but the way he holds it like in the middle like that, like the way the guard to his sword is, his Keyblade is so interesting. One thing I also really thought was kind of interesting was the Verum Rex. I think I've seen everyone had the same reaction, because when I got the toy box, I was like, wait, what? I was like, is this an ad for like a Square Enix game within the Square? Like, what's going on here? And then it's like, oh, it's a commercial. I was like, that's got to be something Square Enix is really working on. Or is that just something they made just for this? Because it's like, at this point in time, I feel like the way that look, because it looks like a Final Fantasy game, it's like, someone's going to be like, you're making that, right? I mean, I know you played the actual game in Toy Box, but it's like more, you know, you're in this mega, you know, you're in the suits and stuff like that. But with all that like JRPG stuff you just saw, like, how does that, I mean, I guess it'd be kind of like, maybe it's supposed to be kind of like a front mission type of thing, but it's like none of like the stuff you saw with Verum Rex. So it's kind of like, it seems like that's separate, even though it's like the same titling for like you and the Gigases, like the little toy suits and stuff like that. Like it seems like that's separate, but it's like I said, it's under the same name. Not unless that's supposed to be like a smaller part of like that. I don't know, that seems like that's going to be its own property. But then again, it's like the way, you know, the secret ending and everything makes you go, wait, so is that going to be like a Kingdom Hearts thing, like those worlds colliding? Is that going to end up being like a, maybe it's supposed to be a thing of like, it's a world within a world type of situation of like, it exists in Toy Box as a TV show or game or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, it's an actual existing world. I mean, to be fair, you did go inside of the game and stuff like that, so that kind of already shows that I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting thought and interesting thing, so. I would love to actually see like whether Square Enix, I haven't looked into, I don't know if they're actually doing something with that, or was it like, no, that's just, it's just a thing inside of Kingdom Hearts that won't ever be anything else on its own, maybe, I don't know. But the whole, you know, clash between, you know, the 13 Darknesses and the 7 Lights, it was so interesting how like a lot of that ended up, you know, playing out like a lot more, because obviously I knew about Marluxia popping up just because I've seen some of the trailers and stuff like that, so I knew about him. But like Larxene and Luxord, which, no, it's not Luxord, that's what I always call him. I think it's like Luxord is how, like, that's how Sora pronounces it. But like his return, Dimix's return, Larxene, I was like, wait, what? And they also even hint to it, like the whole reason of like obviously 1 through 8 we're all like connected to Ants and the Wise. 9 through 12 you're a completely different story. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I do like when you get to the Keyblade graveyard later on, the fact is that you kind of join up with the others and kind of tag team with different groups like Axel and Kairi, and then like, you know, Shion and Roxas and Ventus and Aqua to fight, you know, these different boss fights like that, like these kind of battle royales, essentially back-to-back fights like that. I thought was kind of such an interesting aspect to it. And it's so interesting to kind of see like so many things kind of tying together, and like, you know, like kind of going back to the organization and stuff like that, like what is it, Zexion's real name, I'm blanking on it right now. I always know them by their nobody names rather than like their human names. But the fact is, Zexion's helping you out the entire game, because for him it's like, oh, I'm actually, you know, trying to make up for the past and try to do good. I let them sway me, you know, turn against, you know, my mentor. And then also Vexen too. It's like, oh man, he's up here doing all his shady stuff, and it's like, whoa, actually he's actually a good guy trying to make up for the past and stuff, like all the stuff that he did. Roping Dimix into it too, I love that. And it's like, why you go to Dimix? Because Dimix is the one person they would never suspect. And besides, he kind of got bitched the entire time, because even Larxene is like, why is this loser back? You know, I always talked about it when it came to the story of Kingdom Hearts. Like, to me, like, obviously the term that gets used around is convoluted. People can think what they want. Like, I don't think that necessarily has to be a bad thing. I know it's meant to be a bad thing, but it's still like, it's a story, a narrative that I enjoy, that I feel like I always kept up pretty well with. I always talk about it, you know, the fact that Dream Drop is where things kind of got confusing for me, just because they introduced time travel, and obviously this builds upon that time travel aspect to it, but which I thought was kind of implemented in a very interesting way of just kind of like going back to different points in time, like with the whole Riku situation, like what ended up being another replica of Riku. The moment he was, you know, that during that cutscene at the end where he's talking to Riku and being like, not like the one that had joined the organization, that one where he was kind of, because it made it seem like, oh, he was Riku from Kingdom Hearts 1, the one from Hollow Bastion that was possessed by Ansem, but it's like, no, it's actually just another replica Riku. But the moment, like after you beat him, he's like, no, I'm real. And replica Riku, who had kind of still been a part of Riku, was kind of like, no, like he's just another replica. And he could have taken the body, but he wanted to give it to Namine because for him, even though his memories and stuff like that were fake, like the fact of the matter is Namine was still important to him. So he wanted to do whatever he could to protect her, you know? So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. This game was also very kind of like emotional in many different regards. Not just like, obviously like the Disney stuff has its own emotions, especially when you've seen the original movies, like the whole Tangled situation or whether it be Frozen. The fact of the matter is when you get to like basically almost seeing everyone that Sora cares about getting swept away by the darkness and into the Keyblade graveyard. Side note, how crazy was Donald using that Zeta flare? I'm like, yo, where you been hiding that? The moment he got like that magic seal underneath him and everything, I'm like, yo, Donald, what you about to do, bro? And even Goofy being like, don't do it. Donald's like, is he about to sacrifice himself? But I guess it like used up all his energy and stuff like that. But that moment of Sora crying because he's like, I can't do this on my own. I was like, that broke my heart. I was like, dude, you never see, like, you see Sora like that sometimes, but it's like, you know, it's like my best friends are like, I can't do this without them. They're my strength, and without them, I'm useless. And like seeing him break down like that kind of broke me a little bit. I was like, geez, I was like, oh crap, Kingdom Hearts, stop with the emotions. And even Riku's like, you know you don't believe that. You know, and standing, like, that was so interesting. And also, like, the final world, which that place is so pretty. It's also interesting because Chittery, is that thing's name, was kind of like, oh yeah, you've actually been here multiple times, not just here in the beginning of the game. Every time you went to the Station of Awakening, that was technically coming to this world. I guess, you know, because, like, it's a balance between, like, the heart as well as life and death. But the fact is, I guess, like, the argument is like, oh, it looks the way it does anytime he goes to like the Station of Awakening because he hasn't fully crossed over to final world. It's like, oh, this is you right there on the edge of like the afterlife. So like, whereas a Station of Awakening is kind of like that middle ground, the final world is like one step away from like the end all be all situation. So that was so trippy too. There's like so much good stuff about this game. I also didn't talk about it. Like I said, my mind is all over the place, so I do apologize. I feel like each game they kind of do it more and more, at least with the main titles. Because obviously the other games, it didn't really happen. The whole like changing your outfit and stuff like that. Because in the grand scheme of things, like with one, you did it like twice. Because you did it in Atlantica and you did it in Halloween Town. Those are the only areas. In 2, you do it technically, what, like 4 times? Because you do it in Tron's World, Space Paranoid. You do it in Pride Lands, you know, Simba's World. You do it in Atlantica, but that's more of a musical area. And then there's also Halloween Town as well. But, you know, technically it counts as 2 because you get 2 different outfits. So you do it like 4 or 5 times in Kingdom Hearts 2. And in this game you do it multiple times because you do a slight modification in San Fran, Tokyo, but I don't know if you'd really count that. The fact is, you know, the VR goggles things, obviously Toy Box, them being toys, pirates, they actually get like pirate outfits and stuff like that. I think if you notice, like I noticed in one scene, like if you look at one of Sora's teeth, I don't know whether it's supposed to be kind of erotic or is that just supposed to be like a go-tooth or something. I couldn't really tell, but I noticed in one scene, I was like, oh, that's such an interesting little detail. But like, I even love that, you know, it kind of ran through the movie for that, but kind of doing its own thing. And I love that thing of like Sora being like, you know, one day isn't enough, but, you know, even Jack being like, the fact of the matter is one day is enough, you know, to say, you know, what you really feel and stuff like that. And it's so interesting to me because obviously, like, one, they built out more, they introduced other characters from the movies and stuff like that. Not every character, but, you know, essentially, you know, Jack's first mate, I'm always blinking on that dude's name. He's been in all the movies and stuff like that. But I also love what they did with the whole Calypso thing. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, for one, like the fake Jack that's with you, even the Leviathan ended up turning back into crabs at the end. And it's like, I mean, to be fair, it's been a long time since I've seen like World's End. Like, it's been a while since I've seen that movie, so, but I don't remember like them really doing too much with that afterwards, but it seemed like for it to be like a plot point in the game of Kingdom Hearts, I thought it was kind of interesting. Maybe it was a plot point in the movie. Like I said, it's just been a while and I just didn't remember. So I thought it was kind of interesting too with the whole Arendelle situation, cause I was like, oh, oh, cause you know, some worlds you have two partners, other worlds you only have one. So I was like, oh, so who's gonna be your partner in this world? I was like, oh, is it gonna be like Olaf and, you know, Elsa? It's like, no, it ended up being Marshmallow. I completely forgot that thing actually had a name, like the snow monster. It's like, it had one? Like maybe it came up, I mean, it's been a couple years since I saw Frozen, so I didn't remember that at all until I saw the name. Like, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Or is that kind of like an official yet unofficial thing? Like, it's never said in a movie maybe, and then like, Disney was like, oh no, its name is Marshmallow, or maybe it came up and I just didn't remember. I didn't remember them ever referring to it as that, but nevertheless, maybe not unless Kingdom Hearts got it, like the A-OK from Disney, you know, with everything to be like, oh yeah, no, Marshmallow's fine. I don't know. What I thought was kind of interesting too is how they handled the whole like, you know, Kingdom of Corona, you know, Tangled world, in a sense of like, because, you know, I know Tangled, so I was like, oh, how are they going to handle the whole thing? Because, like, obviously she's one of your party members and you utilize her. So, like, so what are they going to do later? Oh, they make it so that the only party member you have later on is Eugene, essentially. Flynn, but Eugene. But I thought that was kind of interesting. It's just an interesting little detail of like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like, because the world continues the way it was, like, even when you go back to it later on, so why would she have her hair again? It's like, no, like, you know, she's got normal, non-magical hair and stuff like that. So it's like, of course, she wouldn't be part of your party and stuff like, which is kind of, it's cool yet sad, because it's like, oh, you never get to use that character again, but at the same time, it's like, it makes sense. So it's just an interesting little detail I was always kind of fascinating about. One of my moments that I thought was kind of crazy, like, one ended up being like the Demon Tower thing. That is crazy, like the whole like bunch of like Shadow Heartless that come together like a swirling tornado, and they kind of move, kind of like how when Vanitas did the whole like getting on like the Keyblades and kind of they're in a like tornado type of thing and he rides it. Like that to me is a kind of a cool thing, and that's been an enemy that pops up consistently, well, a few times here and there throughout the entire game. I thought it was kind of interesting. But kind of tying that all together, that Union, you know, the whole Union Key situation where it's like Sora's doing that, which is so interesting. Like he gets that from Vanitas a little bit, like riding all those Keyblades and just using them, and just like the darkness is coming towards him and just like slicing through all these Keyblades. That is so freaking dope. I'm like, it's one of those moments that made me giddy and lose my mind. Another one being like when Aqua got out of the Dark Realm, she's like, these are the Destiny Islands? When did they fall to darkness? And Riku's like, no, you're back in the realm of light. She's tearing up. I was like, Aqua, yes, you're back. It was so good. Also, like Sora finding out so much that we as a story audience knew, but not him. Like the fact is, because of Ansem's research, it's like, oh man, there's actually 3 hearts inside of you. One being Roxas, another being Ventus, which it took Vanitas popping up, which that kind of took me by surprise, because like the Unversed start popping up. I'm like, whoa. How are they around? Because even Donald and Goofy were like, wait, don't these enemies seem familiar? And I was like, oh. Like, I was like, because I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, like, I know that the Unversed no longer existed because Vanitas didn't exist anymore. So I was like, oh, did everyone forget about them or something like that? But then Goofy eventually remembered. It's like, oh, right, yeah. I mean, to be fair, it has been like, I mean, canonically speaking, at this point in time, it's been like 12 years. So it's an enemy you fought a long time ago. So, of course, your memory will be a little fuzzy about it. But I thought that's kind of interesting about Unversed Pod. I was like, wait, Vanitas? And lo and behold, he pops up later on. Even like the whole thing of his face getting revealed later on, Sora's like, wait, you look like me. And it's like, and I thought it was kind of interesting explanation they gave. Basically, Vanitas is obviously all the darkness that was in Ventus that kind of got taken away from him. But the fact is, yeah, the reason why he looks like Sora, because, you know, I'm what you lost or you pushed away, but Sora is who and what you needed. So obviously I'm going to mirror what you needed, and that being Sora. So it just kind of was nice how that was kind of implemented and explained, like, oh, why he looks like Sora and why he doesn't just look like Ventus. And then that thing at the end where it's like you're fighting against Xandor. And that was the thing too. I wish like Sora was able to get armor. Like, I guess you could make the argument like him shifting clothes and stuff like that technically is that, but still, like, I was hoping, I wish, and a lot of people, I remember hearing that, you know, when the whole like Ventus, Aqua, and Terra, seeing them in their armor and stuff like that, it's like, oh, will Sora ever get armor? Like when he gets to that point, but it's like he never did. But I mean, we did, like, I guess technically, because the final boss is like, well, not final boss, but one of the final boss forms for Xehanort is his armored form. So I was like, I'm guessing that's his armor. But that scene where it's like, it's the last thing, was it Ray of Light or whatever? Like the last command you give, and like, it's like Sora gets struck down. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, and it kind of shows Sora floating, and then like, you know, because I'm still not used to it, because I'm still getting used to the PS4, like for stuff to be coming out the speaker of the controller, and it's like Donald and Goofy calling out to you, and then them being by your side and doing one last Trinity. I lost my mind. I was like, dude, that's so cool, and how that was implemented. Them like calling out to you through the controller like that was awesomely implemented. So I also like that they utilized that also with the whole Ratatouille situation. So I know I always associate his name with being Ratatouille, but it seems like Ratatouille is the dish. I guess he doesn't canonically have a name, does it? Because in this they call him Little Chef, not unless that is canonically his name in the movie too. I would assume so. But I was always under the impression like, oh, his name was like Ratatouille or something like that. Maybe it is, but in this they call him Little Chef. I've yet to see that movie. I think amongst everything in this world, like that's the only movie I haven't seen amongst the Disney properties, which that's also another conversation to have too. It's like there are no Final Fantasy characters in this, like, because you don't even get to go to Radiant Garden or even Destiny Islands. You go there, but you don't really get to go there. I mean, like obviously like Zexion and like, you know, some of the other former organization members and Riku and Mickey kind of kick it there. But other than that, like no one, you don't actually get to, you know, experience like any of the Final Fantasy characters. Maybe because like finishing up all the Kingdom Hearts stuff, it would have been too much to really, maybe they did find a way to really implement, you know, the Final Fantasy characters, or maybe there was like a legitimate reason it wasn't, because I remember like people saying like, oh, people are kind of freaking out because there's like no Final Fantasy characters in the promotional material. Now part of me is like, yeah, I'm a little bummed out about that, but at the same time I think it's okay. Still would have preferred it, but at the same time I'm like, it's something I can live without. It still would have been interesting to see, you know, what story would have awaited to others, and maybe that's another reason why they did it. Just like I said, maybe it just would have been harder to kind of implement them in the story, you know, at least the Disney worlds, you know, especially because like implementing them in this world, you would have had to give them Kingdom Hearts storylines, whereas every other Disney property is like, oh, you don't really have to give them Kingdom Hearts storylines. You can add in some dialogue here and there that ties it all to Kingdom Hearts, but the fact of the matter is it's just usually just the Disney movie done again. So, or, you know, in some cases kind of a continuation of that world, like I said, in the Monster Inc. case, as well as the Big Hero 6. It is interesting that even when it was all said and done, and I think this kind of fits Sora's personality very nicely, is the fact is that he kind of like got sympathetic towards a lot of his villains in the end. Like even the whole like Luxord situation of like, you know, when we're regular guys again, we'll play a game someday, and he's like, huh, I'm looking forward to that, you know, stuff like that. Even like the whole conversation with Larkstein, he's like, why did you choose to come back anyway? And she's like, that'll be my secret. So it's just kind of interesting in that regard. I'm saying all this because obviously I finished the game, but I don't know if there's actually going to be any DLC that gets added storyline-wise and stuff like that. Maybe see more of what other people were up to. I mean, this is like the first one like officially to come out on like, you know, not to be like a master or kind of, you know, remix or whatever, or final mix, which I'd assume maybe there would be a final mix version later on. Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't actually make an entire game. Maybe it'd just be kind of like DLC, like added stuff into the game, kind of like a Final Fantasy Royal Edition type of thing. Well, even that still kind of flows like a bit of a I mean, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, but even that still kind of flows like a final mix type of situation or remix type of thing. So I don't know. It's just kind of a thought process I had, but it was sad because like things kind of played out the way I feel like this is like kind of balancing happy and the sad. But the fact is, I feel like this is the closest Sora and Riku, I mean, like Sora and Kairi in particular, have gotten the entire season, like holding hands and everything. It's like, oh, that's so cute and adorable. And the fact is that she kept him from completely crossing over in the final world because she, you know, held on to him. Like, no, he's going to come back. And because of her light, he was able to find his way back. I do also like that Jiminy kind of popped up in those scenes and stuff like that, because I feel like Jiminy popped up like one time. Like the biggest game he's been a part of, I feel like, is RE Coded. Well, Coded as well as Chain of Memories. Those are the ones, and it makes sense in Chain of Memories because it's like, or at least RE Chain of Memories. I don't know how much of a role he played in the original Chain of Memories, but cutscene wise and stuff like that, he pops up all the time in RE Chain of Memories because it's like, you know, him being with the journal and everything. So it kind of makes sense that he kind of has a role in that as well. But it's kind of interesting, like, you know, when Sora came back from the final world and everything, and it's like, oh, Jiminy's there by his side, you know, chasing after that, was it Leech Heartless or whatever. But getting back to what I was just bringing up, the whole situation with Kairi, just the fact that Xehanort did what he did, I was like, what? That's crazy. And then like Sora's like, I'm gonna go out on an adventure, I'm gonna find Kairi, and I'm like, nah, I gotta do this on my own. And you know, Riku telling the king was like, no, let him go. And you know, Donald and Goofy, you know, wanting to be by his side, but it's like, no, I promise, I'll be back, just believe in me. And so, and it's, you know, and like I said, like everything worked out. Like obviously, like Roxas came back, Shion was there. Like I'm, you know, I guess because of the whole time travel thing, she was pulled from time and everything. That's why she's around and everything. And then they like hit Axel, like, oh crap, I remember. Then there's also like the Psyx thing, because we're going back to the whole organization, people not being what they're all about and stuff like that. And lo and behold, here he is. There's a whole, like, maybe it's something I missed, maybe it's a key related thing, but I didn't remember anything popping up. If you are familiar with it, let me know. Like the girl that they were looking for, Shion, not Shion, I don't know why I said that. Psyx, it's what I meant to say. Psyx and Axel were looking for a girl that they befriended, and the fact is that she was going. That's the whole reason why they started apprenticing with Ansem the Wise, was to find her in the first place. That story element, even at the end, is kind of like Hayner, Pence, Alette, Shion, Roxas, Axel, and Psyx, and it's like they're sitting at the spot eating sea salt ice cream. I thought, like, oh, that's so dope. Terra and Aqua and Ventus being back after so long. Even the fact is that Ericus had hidden himself inside of Terra, and then all three of them are there. Well, four of them are reunited and everything. It's like, it's moments like that. It makes you so sad and stuff like that, you know. And it's sad, but, you know, happy, because it's all beautiful and amazing. It's just like, oh, it's so good. And then, like, you know, having that whole Kyrie situation play out the way it did. And then at the end, and it's like, oh, like, Kyrie and Sora are there. And then it's like, oh, yeah. But then you see Sora fade away and tears falling down Kyrie's. It's like, he never came back. Like, I guess, like, because it was something Xehanort was talking about, the fact of the matter is there would be a price to pay for, like, that power that he was using, kind of using it so recklessly. I mean, to be someone, I guess, to cross that far, came back, trying to cross back over again was too much, so he could only get Kyrie back. And for him, it's like, we always, you know, find each other, and then we can never stick. It's like, separated again, they found each other in one, they were by each other's side, they just didn't realize. I mean, he didn't know that Kyrie was with him the entire time, her heart and everything. But in Kingdom Hearts 1, then they get reunited in Kingdom Hearts 2, they do all of this, and it's like, we're gonna be together, and then it's like, bam, no, we're not. So obviously, the way this game plays out and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like this is kind of like the final chapter. That was something like I remember Tetsuya Nomura had talked about years ago. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3 wouldn't necessarily be the end, that it would be the end of the Xehanort chapter. But the fact of the matter is, and potentially Sora's story is what I was kind of going into this. So I was like, they could continue, and it would probably be like maybe different Disney characters. Maybe it won't be Donald and Goofy that roll with you. Maybe it's other characters, but maybe you see references to the other characters, the Disney characters that you have connection to, like in the particular case of like Mickey, Donald, and Goofy being the main ones, and Chip and Dale, like people like that who know you, that you knew through other ventures, but it's like, hey, you're here now as a different character in all of this. What's interesting though is I kind of feel like that's not the case. This might not be the end of Sora's story. The whole thing might be about trying to get Sora back. But I mean, maybe at that point we'll be playing some other character. Maybe you're playing Riku, or maybe you're playing Kairi potentially. But the whole thing is like, the way everything played out, especially the secret ending with Riku and Sora in that world, I was like, what is this? I was like, it kind of looks like San Fran, Tokyo, but I was like, no, it can't be. I saw the 104 and I was like, is this supposed to be The World Ends With You? I thought it was like supposed to be Shibuya. I would assume so with the 104 building, but then like that character from Verum Rex popped up, and then we see someone in an organization hood, and I'm like, okay, wait, what? So that's why I'm kind of like, those worlds are going to come together, which also kind of implies that Sora is coming back. So that's definitely going to be interesting, especially because they said it to be like, oh man, Zigbar, secret antagonist the entire time. He's a part of some other group. Is he supposed to be part of like the Lost Masters? Is that what that's supposed to be? Because Xehanort references them like being the ones who started the Keyblade War, or maybe the Keyblade War started because of them. But the fact of the matter is, like, not all of them are there at the end of the game. Only some of them are. And then like the whole thing of like 7 darknesses this time, you know, because, you know, you see the whole Xehanort and Eric's game back when they were younger, but the fact it's a chess game they were playing. And I love that whole aspect of like, don't underestimate, like there's more to it than you think, and just that all, like how they balanced that with like them in the past. Also that area, you don't get to explore it too much. I mean, obviously it's just kind of a boss fight area, but what is it, Callum the Scale? What is that final area you go to when you're fighting Xehanort? It's a very pretty place. Like, it's too bad you don't really get to explore it, stuff like, because I thought that was supposed to, like, is that supposed to be like the land of departure way beforehand? Also, is it pretty dope when Aqua, you know, turns, that scene was so beautiful, like when she unlocked Castle Blade, because I'm about to say, like, are they about to go into it? But it's like, no, why would you? Because like the whole place is meant to be confusing so that no one finds Ventus, you know, at the centerfold of the, or at the very least, is he in a basement or wherever he is located within the confines of Castle Oblivion? I mean, it's supposed to be a maze. It's meant to confuse you so you can't find him in there. But to see it kind of unlock and turn back into the land of departure was so dope. Like, just how that scene was constructed and everything. But yeah, that's definitely kind of set up to be like, oh yeah, there's definitely going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4, which I'm fine with them continuing this for as long as they want to or need to, because I'm so interested to see, like, beyond this, like, what other new worlds would they introduce and stuff like that. Like I said, would it be Sora, or would you be venturing out to find Sora? I don't know. Like I said, like, we don't know the context of that scene. All we saw was, like, Kyrie holding onto his hand and then he vanishes. Like, representing, like I said, the fact is that he didn't come back. But I think they haven't given up on him. Obviously, he'll either find his own way back. But, because the thing that he met, was it Chittery? Once again, I'm terrible with names, but he met it in the final world, but it's there with Ventus at the end, so it's like, it's not even there to help him. He ran into a few people. There was like a girl he had talked to. I'm assuming she might be, because she's like, oh, it wasn't a Heartless or a nobody, it was a somebody that did this to me. I'm wondering if she connected to that whole, like, Zigbar situation, like the secret role he's been playing, who he's really a part of and everything. Because for him, because for him it's like, oh, that's what this was all about. Like, when it was all said and done, that Xehanort was going to give him the Keyblade, and the whole thing was like, you're not deserving of a Keyblade, but he was almost kind of like, more so than you think. So it's like, no, he is a Keyblade master, but maybe he lost his Keyblade and he needed specifically Xehanort's, or maybe once he gets a Keyblade back, then it's kind of like, hey, you know, it's time for me, you know. Then there's that suit, there's the box that Maleficent and Pete were after, which we see them nearby looking at everything kind of unfold, because that was the whole point. It's like, okay, maybe the box will appear during this whole clash of the different groups. So I don't know. It's just very interesting. I'm very excited to see what they do continuing going forward, because like I said, I don't in any shape or form believe this is the final chapter, but I'm curious to see how they continue execute. I'm sure it also comes down to how well this game does and how well it's received. I don't know those numbers or anything like that. I don't really care to know. Like, once again, I don't really look into reviews and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed it, so that's my thought process on it and everything. Like, I know I was all over the place with this video, so I do apologize, and I'm sure I'm not talking about everything I wanted to talk about, but the fact of the matter is, that's what the comments are for. Like, if you have played Kingdom Hearts 3 and you just sat through all of this, listen to me babble on and on, I'd love to kind of continue the conversation, bring up some stuff. I'd love to talk about Kingdom Hearts with some other people. I don't have many people in my life just because, well, like, you know, that I can talk to about Kingdom Hearts, because I keep to myself a lot. But that's the beauty of the internet. There's people all over the world who are probably really into this video game series, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Once again, you can use the term convoluted, and I'll give it to you. Like, and someone might be like, oh, I can't believe you want to speak, but I don't care. Like, that's the thing. Someone could use the term convoluted. I'm like, I'll give you that. It is confusing and stuff like that, but I love it. I've never been this invested in a video game, you know, narrative. Like, I don't think there's any other video game narrative that I've been this invested in. Like, because if you're curious, like, I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when it originally came out years ago. That was like, what, 2002, 2003. I was 10 or 11 when that game came out. I am 26 now. That's crazy, because a lot of people are making those, you know, jokes, because obviously, like, the memes and everything of like, oh man, it's been 1,000 years, like, and they finally released Kingdom Hearts 3. But it's like, that's how much of my life this game series has been a part of my life for the past 15 years, relatively speaking. 15 to 16. So to me, that's insane. And I hope it continues to be a part of my life. So like I said, I'm so interested to see what they do beyond this. Like I said, that also comes down to whether or not they do any DLC for this and stuff like that. Maybe kind of fill in some other blanks. But like, obviously, it's room for like, not full-blown Kingdom Hearts 4. But will it be a Kingdom Hearts 4 where they kind of title it a little bit differently? I would assume be like a KH4. But I'm fine with them kind of creating like a new trilogy, a new art. I mean, I say trilogy, but like, obviously there's the main numbers, but there's obviously the stories in between. I wonder, is that something they would continue? I'm curious if that's something they do going forward, or like with the next set of games, like would it just be a straight up trilogy of like 4, 5, and 6, here you go. I don't know, but I'm very excited to kind of see what they ultimately do. But like, enough of me rambling. I do apologize. Like I said, I was all over the place. But yeah, that's really all I want to talk about in this video. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.